In this video, we're going to have a broad look at the various sensors that are built into the JackBord BASIC. For this video, you just need a JackBord BASIC. The JackBord BASIC has three built-in sensors: a light sensor, an infrared remote control sensor, and a temperature sensor. In this series of videos, we're going to be looking at the light sensor and the temperature sensor. The light sensor on the JackBord BASIC uses a special type of diode that's sensitive to light, and this is the detector. The JackBord BASIC measures light levels in lux. So if you look at the table on the right hand side, it lists different intensities of light for different situations. So for example, a moonless clear night is 0.001 lux, whereas a very dark overcast sky is 100 lux, and so on. And essentially, the light sensor lets you accurately determine the amount of light in your environment, or the amount of light that's falling on the JackBord BASIC. So the light sensor on the JackBord BASIC is located right here at the top. And if we just enlarge it a bit, you can see it's this small, clear-looking chip. If you go in even closer, you can begin to see the structure of the chip. So essentially this portion here is the detector, and this section down here is the electronics that processes the readings from the detector. Because remember, earlier on we said that all sensors have a detector, a processor, and an output. So on the light sensor, the output is kind of these pins here, which provide information that the JackBord then uses to give you the light readings. So if we return back to our parts of a sensor diagram from the previous video, we have the detector, the processor, and the output. So the detector for the light sensor is this portion here, and the processor is the portion down here. And finally, the output are the pins around the outside, and these pins send the final light readings to the JackBord BASIC so that it can then display them to you. So if you think about where you would see light sensors in everyday life, they're in cell phones, cameras, cars have light sensors, television sets. All laptops and PCs use light sensors to control the brightness of the screen. The security lights around your house or that you see outside, they all use light sensors to know when it's daytime or when it's nighttime. And likewise, the public lights that you see on the highway all have light sensors in them, so they know to turn off when it gets light. So light sensors are everywhere. The second sensor we're going to look at in this series is the temperature sensor. And this sensor uses a special detector in the chip that is sensitive to temperature, and this is the detector. And the JackBord BASIC measures temperature in degrees Celsius. And so just for your information, temperature is a measure of the average kinetic energy of the particles in a substance being pretty much anything. And essentially it's a measure of how quickly the atoms in an object are vibrating. So if it's very, very cold, the atoms are barely moving at all. Whereas if it's very, very hot, they're moving furiously and going at very high energies. Now, if we look for the temperature sensor, it's actually located down here just above the second variable resistor. And this is a chip, and you can see it's got 8 pins on it. If we go in really close, we have the 8 pins, and then the sensor itself is located inside this IC, or integrated circuit. And this is the part of the JackBord that lets you measure temperature. And the thing you need to keep in mind is that because this temperature chip is attached to the PCB board of the JackBord, it's actually measuring the temperature of the PCB board as well as the air temperature. And just like light sensors, temperature sensors are found just about everywhere. So for example, in ovens and rice cookers, in fact, just about all kitchen appliances have some kind of temperature sensor. Even things you might not think of, like a mixer. A mixer has a temperature sensor in there, but its job is to detect any overload in the system. And if it gets too hot, then it will cut power to the motor. Cell phones all have temperature sensors in them. And not just temperature sensors for telling you how hot or cold it is, but there are actually temperature sensors inside the batteries in the cell phone, so that the cell phone can keep track of how well the battery is charging. Likewise, most watches these days have some kind of temperature sensor in them. Cars have lots of temperature sensors, not just for the cabin or for the outside, but for various parts of the engine, the ignition system. Electric cars have multiple battery temperature sensors in the battery packs. And of course, fridges and freezers, they have to have a temperature sensor. So temperature sensors are all over the place. We're not going to look at the infrared remote control receiver. We'll deal with that in another set of videos. So in the next two videos, we're going to look at the light sensor and the temperature sensor in more detail. To go directly to the next video, simply visit jb.works and enter the TMT code shown on the screen at the search prompt. For more information and to get help, visit jb.works.